Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Create a Gift. Today I'm going to be making some more baskets with t-shirt yarn. So these are some that I've made already. This is t-shirt yarn and this one is cord. So it doesn't matter what material you want to use, but the thicker and sturdier the better for a basket. So that's one of my trick or treat ones with a wooden base. I do the bases differently to that now, but that is just an example. How you can do some nice fancy patterns. This one is for my daughter's baubles and clips, and that's got her name in it. And then this nice plain normal basket. So I've got today as well at the side, you'll see the written pattern. That's the special notes, really important to read those before you start. And then the actual pattern is on the back, so I'll use that for referring to, because it might help you with the video if you can see them written down as well, especially if you're not used to reading written patterns. I'll pop a link to that free version on the blog, but this PDF is also available to buy on Etsy, really cheap as well. So all you'll need to get started is your chosen yarn. Today I'm using this hooked spaghetti, I believe it's called, in grey, and I've also got another one which I think is the same brand. I can't remember because I don't still have the label, in white. I'm going to do a bit of swapping colours for this one. And then you'll need your large hook. This one is my 12mm, which is what the packet recommends. And I would either use a 12 or a 10 and crochet fairly loose. It'll make it easier to get into all your stitches. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the grey. Okay, so with the t-shirt yarn, because it's big and bulky, I do like to pull from the centre. It saves your ball rolling around all over the place. Stitches used. Today we've got, you'll need your chain, slip stitch, then we've got a special slip stitch, put my tongue back in, a special slip stitch, which is in the notes, and single crochet, but we're working into the leg of the stitch, which is a UK double crochet. And then we're going to finish off with a reverse single crochet, which is how we get this nice fancy edging. So to start off with, as with most patterns, you're going to want to do a magic circle. If you struggle with that, feel free to chain 3 and join, but the magic circle does give a tighter finish. I have got another video which shows the magic circle slowed down if you struggle, and I'll pop a link to that in the description box if needed. So we're going to start by single crocheting 5 into the ring. I know usually I should chain 1 to secure that, which doesn't count as a stitch, and usually I know you would start with 6 for most circles, but this one's a little bit different, so we're going to do 5. So insert into the centre, pull up, yarn over, pull through. So there we go. So don't pull that too tight yet because we haven't finished. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I do hold my yarn slightly different when I'm using t-shirt yarn. I don't tend to hook it over my finger. It doesn't slide through very easy because it's thicker, so I tend to just hold it loose. Once you've got your 5, pull your little tail and pull tight to close that hole up. Now don't keep pulling too tight because you'll start pulling your stitches in and you'll end up with a wonky circle. If you've decided to do a chain to start as well, that is fine. And then we're going to join with a normal slip stitch into the first one. So you want to go through both loops, front one and back one. And then if you just get this end that was from the centre, from your start, put that over your stitches. Okay, so I'm going to pop that over the top, and then we're going to slip stitch. Okay, so you've now got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to keep this over the top and we're going to work over it. And then we're going to chain 1. Okay, and we're going to do 2 single crochet into each stitch. Now it does say as well, as per your notes. So in the special notes, what we're going to do is for each stitch you would normally work into this V shape. okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to work into the leg of the stitch, so into this V here instead, okay? So I'll just move that out of the way. So we're going to insert into the leg of the stitch. Now it can be quite stiff, which is why I would suggest using the hook that's recommended, or bigger if you're practicing. So can you see I've gone through there, out the back, and then single crochet or double crochet if you're in the UK, like that for one. And again, this loose chain is still, this loose thread, so is still on the top, so that means we don't have to try and weave it in. And you want to do 2 in every stitch. So again, back through that front V, pull up your loop and finish your single crochet. And you want to do that all the way around, so you should then have 10. So I'll pause the video and I'll continue working, and we'll come back again for the next round. Okay, so there is my first round, and you should have 10, so double check you've got 10. You can either count the V's or the legs that you've done. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now if you want, when you start a round, to make it easy for counting, is pop your stitch marker in. With t-shirt yarn you might want to use something bigger like a key ring. It just makes it less fiddly. So there you go. You've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we know that that was our first stitch. Now to join, we're going to do the special slip stitch. So what you want to do is insert your hook in the leg that comes before your stitch marker, because this is a stitch and we don't want to lose this stitch because we're going to be working into these on the next round. Okay, so we're going to insert into the leg before the stitch marker, pull up a loop, so you've got 2 loops on your hook, and then you want to go into the back loop only of the first stitch. So you've got your front and your back loop, and we're going to go into the back loop there, pull up a loop and pull through all 3 stitches. And someone's knocking at my door. There we go, sorry about that. Okay, so you've pulled through all 3. Now for the next round, so round 3, we're now going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch, which will then give us 20. Okay, so it's not quite like a normal increasing circle, but this works really well for t-shirt baskets because it stops you getting the holes. Keeps it a lot tighter together. Look at that, I'm out of breath from running up and down the stairs now. So okay, so to do 2 in each, let's take our stitch marker out. If you're fine without using markers, just count. So you'll be doing 2 in every one, and that'll give you 20. So again, we're going to do single crochet. So you want to insert into the leg again. We're going to do this for every stitch. There's no normal single crochets in this. Pull up, yarn over, and then back into the same leg again. That's 2. So usually with a circle, you would increase double on your first, and then you do increase single, and so on. A little bit different when we're working in the leg. So again, into the next one, 2 into the next. So keep going all the way around until you have 20. So I'll just do this last one with you again, into that V. It can be a little bit stiff. I think I may have pulled slightly too tight, but I do like it having as few holes as possible. Pull some more out to the centre. So I'll keep going. You pause the video and press play again once you've got your 20 stitches. Okay, so there we are, you've finished round 3. You should now have 20, so always just double check, otherwise you won't get a nice flat circle. It's really easy to miss one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then when you stitch markers in, 20. So again, we want to special slip stitch. So where you've got this long horizontal line, you want to go through the V where that line is, and it's the one before your marker. That's why markers are particularly helpful in this instance. So you want to go through and pull up a loop. So now you've got 2 on, and then you want to go in the back loop only of the one where your stitch marker is. So I'm going to take that out to make this a bit easier. And into the back loop only. Pull up a loop, so you've now got 3. Yarn over and pull through all 3. So that's now your special slip stitch, and you've joined. Get a nice flat circle. So round 4 now, we want to end up with 30 stitches. So this time we're going to do 2 single crochets followed by 1 single crochet, and you're going to do that all the way around. So again, insert into the leg of the stitch. I'm not sure if it is actually called that, but that's what I've called it because it makes it easier to understand. Okay, and then pop your stitch marker in so you know where you've started. That's going to be a long line for slip stitching, and you get a nice straight join with this special slip stitch. So again, back in the same V again, single crochet, and then you just want to do 1 in the next one. 2, 1. So then in this one we want to do 2. There we go. That's why I like working from the centre, so it just pulls out. And then 1 in the next. So continue doing that all the way around. Pause the video and press play when you've got to the end of row 4, and we'll do the special slip stitch, and we'll do row 5. Okay, so that's round 3 finished, sorry, round 4 finished, so you should now have 30. So just double check that you've got your 30, and then we're going to slip stitch, special slip stitch again. So again, into this V here. Insert, pull up a loop, and then take your stitch marker out into the back loop only of the one you just took your stitch marker out of. Pull up a loop again, so that's your front loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. So round 5 is really easy. You're just going to single crochet into every single stitch around. So I know that's a little bit unusual when you're making a circle, because usually you want to increase, otherwise your work starts to fold and bend and curl. But this is a little bit different. So single crochet into every stitch, into every leg of the stitch still, not into the top, like I just did by mistake. And then you're still going to slip stitch at the end, but it's going to be a little bit different to how we've done it on the previous rows. So work all the way around, and I'll show you how we're going to do that one a little bit different. Now, just a little word of advice: if you're finding that your work is starting to go wonky, or it's curling, you're finding it's bunching up like this, it's likely that your hook is, it could be too small, so it's bunching your work up tighter than it needs to be. Now with t-shirt yarn, it will stretch and pull into shape, so don't worry if you've got a slight bend like I had then. As you can see, if you flatten it down, you can stretch and pull it into shape. If you find that your holes are too big or it's getting too baggy, then your hook is too big. I generally know what my tension is for baskets now, and I tend to go with the large size, but I have made other ones like this, which was done with a 10 instead of a 12, but that's done the traditional way of going through the V's of the stitch and not the leg of the stitch, so you can get away with going smaller because your stitch is going to be more loose, so you want to make your hook smaller to bring those in a bit. So just a little tip, don't be afraid to have a go with different sized hooks. So again, pause the video, come back when you've got to the end, and I'll show you how we're going to finish this row off slightly different to all the others. Okay, so here we are, that is the end of round 5 and we're ready to join. Now don't worry if your work is doing something like this because we've not increased, so it may bunch slightly, but again, like I said a minute ago, t-shirt yarn will separate out and will spread and stay nice and flat, but the reason we want it the same is because we're getting ready to start working upwards now. Okay, so slightly different to previous rows. This time we're going to special slip stitch, but a little bit different. So insert into that V that's before your stitch marker. Now instead of going into the back loop only, we're going to go through both this time. So unclip that, through both, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. So now you haven't got this one showing like you normally would because you've gone through both. Okay, so now what we want to do for this round is we're going to take our hook out. Okay, so this would be your first stitch if we were continuing to go round. Okay, so take your hook out, make that a bit longer so you don't accidentally unravel it. Turn your work over, so you've now got the bottom of the base facing you, so you're on the wrong side. You're going to insert your hook into what would have been the first stitch, like that. Put your loose loop back over your hook. You can pull that tighter again and pull that through like that. Okay, so you can take this out because this now isn't your first stitch and you're not going to be working backwards. And you're now going to single crochet. Sorry, you're going to slip stitch all the way around. So this is now your first stitch. And this time we're going to slip stitch through the V's on the top, like you would normally in crochet, and we're not working through the legs anymore. So we're going to slip stitch all the way around. So you should now have 30 slip stitches when you get to the end. So all you're doing is inserting, pulling up and pulling straight through. Okay, and what that'll do is it'll give you a nice edge to the base of your basket. You see, like this one, you've got this nice edge on the base. Make sure you're not pulling too tight, otherwise it'll make it hard to work through, and it'll also make your circle bunch up. So if your circle's starting to bunch, you're probably crocheting a little bit tight and your tension's too tight. So all the way around until you get back to the beginning. Pause the video and join me when you've finished your slip stitches. Okay, so you've finished your slip stitches, you should still have 30. Now what we want to do is turn your work so that the right side is facing you again. And then this is on the wrong side, you would see it. So just pop that behind your hook so it's back at the back of the work. And now it does obviously all explain that there. So now what you want to do is you've turned your work and your yarn is back to the back of the work, and make sure you're working in the first stitch. Okay, if you're unsure which one is your first stitch, is count back 30, and when you get to 1, that's your first stitch. Also, we're going to be single crocheting into the slip stitches that we've just made. So it might look on the top like you've got 2 V's. So it looks like you've got this one and you've got this one. You want to work in the V that is furthest away from you. They're the slip stitches that we have just made. Okay, so if you're not sure where you're going, you know that you've just finished 1, and you count back 30, and you'll know which is your first one, and it's a V that is furthest away from you. Okay, and this time, so you're going through both loops of that slip stitch again, like that. You've got both loops on, and you're just going to single crochet in every single one of those slip stitches. Okay, so if you need to fold it so that you can see clearly, you can stretch it all back into shape again afterwards. This is why you shouldn't do your slip stitches too tight. It'll make this round really hard, especially if you're using a smaller hook. Okay, so go all the way around until you've got 30 single crochets and you're ready to join. Okay, so I've just done my last slip stitch. Again, if you're not sure where your last one is, count back. If you've got 29, you know you've got one more to go into, and if you're at 30, you know you've finished. You're going to keep 30 all the way up. So now for the end of round 7, there's no slip stitch to join, and there isn't one on the start of round 8. What you're going to do is, just like how we did the base, we're going to single crochet into each of the legs of the stitches, just like we did on the base, and that'll give you this nice tight stitch. Obviously mine's a little bit looser because I've used a size 12, but you can get it a lot tighter if you decide to go for a smaller hook. Just remember not to pull too tight. Okay, so now we're going to go back into the fronts of these again, all the way around. Make sure that you've still got 30. Now on the written pattern it does say as well, just keep going as tall as you want to go. So it doesn't matter when you want to stop. You just keep going and keep going until you're where you want to be. And then you can either finish with a slip stitch all the way around, and that will give you this finish here. So you've got like the nice V's on the outside of the basket. Or what I'll show you how to do is a reverse single crochet, like this one. But for this one today, I'm going to use some different colours as well. And it's really nice if you want to make nesting baskets or baskets of different sizes. All you have to do is change the amount you do in the base. If I wanted another basket that was smaller than this one, I would just stop a row earlier. So I wouldn't do that last increase on round 4, and I would just stop at round 3 and have it as 20 stitches. I may have crocheted a little bit tight. But the advantage of doing it this way, rather than going through the top of the stitch, if you carry on going through the leg of the single crochet, it will align the V's of your stitches, which is something that I didn't do on one of the first baskets that I made. So if you can see here, that V is directly underneath that V. So if you're wanting to do a pattern or maybe add a name into the basket, this is the stitch you should use. This is something that I didn't know when I did this bobble basket. So as you can see, the name Tilly, which is what I went for on that one, it kind of leans off to one side, and that's because I've gone through the top of the stitch. I've gone through the V like you normally would, and it's sort of put everything off slightly. So by doing it again through the V of the stitch, you're going to line all of these up in a straight row. You're also, at the end of each round, you're not going to slip stitch, join and chain 1, because that will give you an like a noticeable seam. You're just going to keep going all the way around. So if you need to, so that you know where to start and end, you can pop your stitch marker in at the beginning. Now you can either do this at the beginning of every round, or if you don't want to move it, just leave it dangling out of your work, and when you get to the top, you'll know it's there, and that saves you having to move it every time. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to add in the white that I showed you before. So if I want to change colour, I'm going to pull up a loop, but before yarning over and pulling through, what you want to do to change colour is get your new colour, in this case white. You don't need to tie a knot in it or anything like that. Just put it over your hook and pull through. Okay, and that means now that this is going to stay the colour that you had before, and your next colour is going to start. Now you don't need to tie it with this. What you're going to do is work over it. This works really well if it's something that you don't need to be putting through the wash, like a basket. Obviously these will be washable, but it's not something like a basket where you might want to tie knots in it and weave your ends in. So now I'm going to go into my next stitch. I'm going to keep that over my work, pull up like normal, just pull it a little bit tighter so that my stitches aren't loose. And then the grey one that I was using, I'm going to carry that along as well. So here's your loose end from your new colour, and here's your original colour, and you want to put that at the back of the work, so that then when you crochet, you're going to trap the old colour and your loose end around your work. So if I do that, you can see I've then got my new colour and those two at the back. Now that will stop it from showing through on the front of your basket. Just keep this in line. So if you want to change colour again, you would do the same. So you would do the start of your next single crochet, pull up your loop. Oh, sorry, I've missed that one. Through the V again. Pull up a loop, but don't finish in that colour. You're now going to drop the white and you're going to pick up the grey. Okay, so I've now got two nice white stitches. Now when you come to do the next one, you're going to be going through there and it's going to line that stitch up. So you could make triangle shapes are really easy. You could just do it with little dots, make it like little snowflakes, little squares. All you have to think about is how tall you want that basket to be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my basket and then I'll show you how to do the last round of reverse single crochet. Just a quick little tip before I get to the end is if you're wanting to do quite a big section of your colour change, is what I tend to do is drop the colour. So like I was saying before about carrying the colour through on the back, which is what I've done there with the grey. With a big section like this, when I'm not working backwards and forwards and I'm working all the way around, is if you just drop your white, carry on working round in your grey, and then when you come to pick it up again on the other side, so I'm going to change that, I want that one grey, the next one I want grey but changing back to white, is when I go through to pick this white stitch up, I'm going to insert my hook, put the white over the top. Now I'm not pulling this through, I'm just putting it there to keep it out of the way. Pull your grey through, okay, and then I'm going to swap to the white, but don't pull this tight, leave this a little bit loose on the back so you can see we've just caught it, and pull your white through. Then I'm going to carry on working over my grey like I have been doing, but I'm also going to work over this loose white that I've just pulled from where I dropped it on the previous round. So if I just do that to show you, you can then use that white to hide the grey, keep it behind your stitches, work across your white as normal, and then what this means is, one, you're not having to carry that white all the way through and try and hide it behind the grey, because you will inevitably see some of that through the stitches. That is totally normal. But it also means that I'm not wasting all that white t-shirt yarn by going all the way around the outside of my basket just to get back to this bit again. So then there, you see I'm making it a little bit smaller, so this one's going to be white and this one above the last white is then going to be grey. I'm going to go back through there, still got both my grey that I'm carrying and my white that I've pulled over from the end. I'm going to pull that through, again I've just been out of white. And then again, because it's what I'll do on the next row, I'm just going to drop that white, okay, oh hang on, I should have changed to grey there, sorry. So this is my last white stitch, so I'm going to pull up my white as normal, switch to my grey and just drop that white behind it and pick up my grey. Now, whether that's how you're supposed to do it or not supposed to do it, let's face it, it's an art form, so you can do it however you like. I just find I prefer this because I'm just not carrying the colour, and maybe I'm just a bit lazy and don't want to have to carry that colour all the way through my basket or waste all of that white. So you can see now, on the inside I've got no white, and on the inside of the white, those loose stitches that I was carrying over, you can't see those either. You just pull them over. So there you go. I'm nearly at the last row now. Continue. Okay, so here we are. I've made it back up to the stitch marker. As you can see, I didn't bother moving it up on every row. I just know that this was the first stitch of each row. Now, to finish, you can either do a slip stitch all the way around, which will turn your V stitches to sort of face the front, and then you'll get a finish like this one. Now this one I swapped colours on each each slip stitch, but as you can see, it just neatens it off and gives you a nice flat edge, which is the same as I did on this one with cord, and it just faces the front. Or another way I like to finish them off is by doing a reverse single crochet. So it is exactly as it sounds, but what you'd want to do is you want to slip stitch to make the top of your basket flat. Now you can either do the special slip stitch or the normal slip stitch, but normal works fine for what we're about to do. Okay, and then chain 1. And what we're going to do is, instead of working that way around like we normally would, still keep the basket so that you're working from the outside, and you're going to work backwards into each of these stitches. So you're going into the one before you hook, and then you're going to pull that through. Now it looks quite loose and high up, but don't worry. Go into the next one. Once you've got that first fiddly one out of the way, it's much easier. And we're just going to single crochet, so don't slip stitch this, single crochet. And what it'll do is it'll give you a nice rolled edge. Sorry, the basket's getting a little bit big to see it all on the camera now, isn't it? You can see like that. Also means you can roll it down if you want to, so you have a bit of a lip on your basket. And that is how I finished this one off. Let me just move my fluffy pom-poms and templates out of the way. But that's how we did this one. So it's just a reverse single crochet all the way around. Which gives a nice finished edge off. So have a go, have a play around, see what you like best. I'm going to finish this one off and I'll pop a picture on now for you. But get creating. Have fun with it, play around with it. The great thing about t-shirt yarn is it works up really, really quick. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Not that I make any money from YouTube, but it is nice to see that people are watching. If there's anything else that you want to know or want to learn, let me know in the comments and I'll always do my best to do some new videos for you as well. So there we go. Thanks very much. And then all you have to do is slip stitch back to the beginning, weave in all your ends, which is really easy with t-shirt yarn. So you've got a thread there, weave in and out, snip the back, and there you go. This is really, really easy one. If you want to make the bear, you just, you can pause the video there so you can see how many rows of white to do in each one. And then the eyes, the nose and the mouth are just sewn on with some black t-shirt yarn. So there we go. Thanks very much. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe and share where you can so I can make more videos. Thanks. Bye.